this session here is an introduction to Application Express. How many people have never used Application Express before? Excellent, so most of you. So the people that are here, hopefully they're not experts already, because otherwise they might find this somewhat boring. So my name's David Peake. I'm the product manager for Application Express. I've been with Oracle a long time. I started in Australia, moved to New Zealand, now live in Denver, Colorado. So I'll be covering off production product today, but I always need to give my safe harbor statement. Power reading, good, you're done. And let's get into the introduction. So Application Express is a database-centric development tool. And we are the primary tool for building with SQL and PL SQL. And you can build both desktop and mobile applications. In fact, we have mobile-first capabilities. But what you'll find generally is you'll be building desktop applications that run across any platform. Our main capabilities are to be able to visualize and maintain the database data. So you've got data in the Oracle database, and you want to display it to your customers. You want them to be able to update that data, insert the data, etc. You want them to be able to create, you want them to see charts, calendars, all sorts of different controls, and you can do that with Application Express. It also leverages the full capabilities of the Oracle database. So if you've got any of the database options, then you can utilize those. All of the, anything you can do in the Oracle database, you can basically expose through Application Express. So if you're using location services, Oracle text, etc., then you can utilize that with Application Express. So there's a number of distinguishing characteristics with Application Express. The first one is that when you're doing development, everything is purely browser-based. So all you need is a browser and the URL to talk through to your development environment, and then your login credentials for your development environment. When it comes to deployment, then, hang on a minute. Okay, I can continue. No, I like to give people grief. You better fill out a good evaluation form for me. You know, I'll be checking. Doesn't matter, I go through them all, change all the scores you put anyway, unless... So anyway, where was I? So also for your end users, it's purely browser-based. So all they need is the URL to the application and their user credentials, and they're off and running. They don't need any sort of client software. Another key aspect of Application Express is when you're actually developing the applications, all of those definitions are actually stored as metadata inside of the Oracle database. And as soon as you save a change, then it's saved as metadata in the Oracle database, and you can just run that application immediately and see the changes you've made. You don't need to do any sort of file compilation or generation. Instead, you run the application, you look at it, go, oh, that's not quite right, go back in, change it, run it again, oh, that's better, move on to the next thing. The other key thing about Application Express is it lives inside of the Oracle database. So there's actually a schema in the Oracle database where the engine lives. All the requests go through to the Oracle database. All of the processing is done down there at the database. What's the most efficient way to process data in the Oracle database? Where do we do all of our processing? In the Oracle database. And then what we would do is we return the results back through to the browser. And so it's a very efficient way to take your requests, process the data, and then send you the results. Another key factor within Application Express is we provide you with all of the plumbing that's required so that you as developers can concentrate on the business solution. So we provide things such as validations, database interactions, session management, etc. So you're not concentrating on the plumbing. Instead, you're concentrating on what pages do I need, what sort of data do I want to display, what sort of chart do I want, etc. And you're able to go from concept to completion very quickly and be able to iterate very quickly as well. So there's a number of different use cases with Application Express. Everything from opportunistic applications, self-service type applications. There's how many people here have been to the Oracle store and bought anything or looked at the Oracle store? Nobody? Okay. That happens to be an Apex application. I'll show you more on that one a little later. There's also extending out enterprise applications. So how many people here utilize EBS? So there's actually a white paper that I worked with the EBS team to put forward a fully supported way to extend out EBS using Application Express. And the big advantage with that is you've got your EBS system here. You do your extension with Apex here. You can patch and upgrade your core system, and you're not going to impact your extensions. You're not going to have to redo them each time. You can also update and patch and build new components with Application Express, and it's not going to impact your ERP system. Then finally, there's taking things like Access, Excel, Oracle Forms, and putting them onto the web. So Application Express is a no-cost feature of the Oracle database. What that means is you must have an Oracle database. With the license agreement for the database, it also includes Application Express. So much the same way as you don't pay for PL SQL, you don't pay for Oracle Text, you don't pay for tools such as SQL Developer, Application Express is in that same bucket. It is, however, fully supported. So you can build any number of applications with any number of developers and any number of end users and still not pay additional licensing costs. However, your database maintenance agreement also covers Application Express. In fact, there's a dedicated support team, and if you find any bugs or what have you, you can call them up and report those through to Oracle. It's available with 11GR1 and above, so all of the supported databases, and any edition of database. So from Enterprise Edition, I actually need to update this because we've now got SE2 for 12C, all the way down to XE or the Express Edition. It's also included with our cloud services. So Exadata Express Cloud Service, the database as a service, Schema Service, Exadata Service, they all come with Application Express, pre-installed and pre-configured. With Application Express, even though it is included with the distributions for 11GR2, R1, R2, and 12CR1, with 12CR2, it's actually included with the distribution but not installed by default. Our recommendation is always to go to OTN to download the latest version. And the reason for that is we release a lot more quickly than the Oracle database does. And so if you're installing 11GR2, it comes with a version of Application Express, which is like 3 or 4 years old, and our latest version is Application Express 5.1. I've got my old slide here. Oh well. We were first released back in 2004, and back then we're actually called HTMLDB. In 2006, our name was changed to Application Express, and we come out with a release approximately once a year. And our latest release, 5.1, which isn't actually up on this slide, actually came out in 2016. So the architecture of Application Express is really quite simple. I call it a 2+ architecture rather than really 3-tier. But you have your browser talking through the middle tier to the database. In the middle tier, you have Oracle REST Data Services, or ORDS, which can be installed into WebLogic Server, Oracle Glassfish, or Apache Tomcat. And what that does is that just pipes a request from the browser through to the database, and then sends the results from the database back through to the browser. So none of the processing logic is done here in the middle tier. Instead, it's all done down in the database, as I said earlier. And so from that perspective, it's very lightweight in the middle there. All it's really doing is sending requests and pushing back the responses. And so it's very lightly used there. So the way that Application Express works is when a request comes in, it actually picks up a session from the database session pool, and it utilizes that session for the duration of the request. So say, for example, I did a select asterisk from EMP. It goes and hits the database, gets the data from EMP, and then sends back the results. As soon as it sends the results back, it actually drops that session. And so from an Application Express perspective, at this point in time, this customer, or this client I should say, that's actually logged into Application Express is not consuming any database resources. And so from our perspective, when we talk about concurrent users, we're talking about the number of people who enter at the exact same time, because this round trip here is very quick to go from the browser through the database and send the results back. And so you'll only see concurrency if A, you've got very slow transactions, or B, you've got a large user base. And so Application Express can scale very well. So Application Express lives inside the Oracle database. Primarily, we want to talk to the local data source. So other schemas within that database, which have got the tables and data, views, etc., go and interact with those. However, you can also utilize database links to talk to other databases, or in fact use web services to go and either consume either SOAP or RESTful web services. And with ORDS, you can also emit web services. With the next version of Application Express 5.2, we're looking to do a lot more with how you can consume and utilize those web services within Application Express. One of the nice things about Application Express is we're effectively multi-tenant before there was a notion of multi-tenant. Where a single installation of Application Express, you can have multiple different workspaces. So in this example, I've got 3 different departments. I've got the sales, support, and HR departments. Each of those have their own schemas. So sales has access to schema 1, support has access to schema 3, HR has access to schema 4. And then schema 2 there is a shared schema. So it might be, for example, the customers. And both the sales and the support team can access any of the tables and any of the data in that customer schema. However, any of the developers for workspaces 1 and 2 will not be able to access schema 4. So we're actually giving you some added security here, where only the developers that are defined here can actually access these tables, where you might have HR tables with salaries and what have you in it. This environment allows you to do a single installation and allow different departments to sign up and have their own unique workspace so they can work independently of anyone else within your organization to build out their own solutions. And we've done this internally within Oracle. The number says here 3,000, it's up over 4,000 these days, but it allows us as an organization to have any different organization come and sign up for a service, utilize it, build their own applications, and it's all centrally managed. Another great thing about Application Express is it's very flexible insofar as where you do your development and where you do your deployment. So I could start doing development here on my laptop, and I could create an application, and then I can simply export that application, and it's a simple SQL flat file that I can then import into any other Oracle database that has Application Express installed. I might be doing my development on premise, and then I've got some new requirements for my partners, and so I might deploy it out on the cloud. Alternatively, I might get a consulting company to come and help me build some applications, and rather than having to allow them access to on-premise, I set them up in the cloud and have them do the development up in the cloud. I push some data up there, they do their development. Once they've finished their development, I can leave it out and deploy it out on the cloud, or again, I can move it on-premise. So I've got a lot of flexibility on where I do my development is where it makes the most sense, and where I deploy it is simply anywhere that Application Express is installed. So we have a number of different hosted sites. apex.oracle.com is an external site that gets over 1 million page views a week. The number of workspaces is actually up over 30,000 now. Our internal one, apex.oraclecorp.com, it's utilized by about 20% of the Oracle employees on a weekly basis. So it's very widely used. There's a lot of mission critical applications on there. And so it's very important to Oracle for running our own business. One of the great things about Application Express is the Apex community. And one of the best places you're going to see that community in operation is here at Kscope this week. So there's 3 concurrent tracks running right throughout the week. You get a lot of people that have been working with Apex for many years. You'll find that we're a very sociable bunch. It doesn't matter how simple, how hard, how, what sort of questions you have. Just about everybody in the community will be very happy to help you answer those questions. We have a very active presence on our OTN discussion forum. It's one of the most active discussion forums. We have a lot of different bloggers. We also have this community site, which I'm quickly going to switch over to. Maybe. There we go. So let me just go to that. So apex.oracle.com/community. And from here, you can get at all the different consulting companies. You'll see there's a number of different hosting companies for Application Express. You can go and have a look at commercial applications that have been built or internet applications. In fact, there's another site called Built with Apex, which has hundreds of sites that are Apex sites. If you're interested in a book, then there's a whole heap of different books available. You'll notice all these books here are all 5.1 books. There's a number of different success stories, both on-premise and cloud, that you can read about, or get quotes. There's a number of quotes that we've been given by different people over the years, so you can read those. Wow, this is slow. There we go. So there's a number of key URLs here. Really, the one important URL from my perspective is this one here. If you can only remember one thing coming out of today, it should be that URL, otn.oracle.com/apex. Everything else you can get from that one URL. So let me go and quickly run you around there. So let me go back to my browser and pump it up a little. Of course, it pumps up the URL, not the URL, but that's all right. otn.oracle.com/apex. So from this site, you can download the latest version of Application Express, which is currently 5.1.1. You can get at patch set notes, known issues, installation guide, etc. You can get at all of our documentation. And so we have installation guide, the application builder users guide, etc. You can go through all of those. From the community tab, you can get to that same site I just went to, apex.oracle.com community. There's another one here called Apex World, which I'm just going to click on. Apex World is a site built by the community for the community. There's a gentleman by the name of Jürgen Schuster, who's here this week, who actually was instrumental in putting this site together. And we have a Slack interface here, or you can actually bring up the discussion forums. In the middle here is the latest news. And then one of the things about Apex is we're very active in the Twitter community. So if you've got a Twitter account, then if you look for hash Oracle ORCL Apex, then you'll see all the tweets coming through. Alternatively, you can go and look here and actually follow this site as well. And you'll see that, there's already a number of posts on what's been happening, over the first couple of days. Let's close that down again. So the last tab here is probably the one that's most important. If I can get these things to stop doing that, thank you. Go to Learn More. From the Learn More, then we've got a whole heap of different links. There's a page here for getting started. Presentations, if you actually go to presentations, then the slide deck I'm giving today is effectively this one here, this 5.1 overview. There's all sorts of other slide decks on there as well. There's all sorts of different white papers. For example, on lifecycle management. I was talking about EBS before. There's a white paper for EBS. If we go back to Learn More, then, come on, I said go back to Learn More. Thank you. There's also links to things like videos, Oracle Magazine articles. There's hands-on labs. I'm just going to click on that one. One of the best ways, I believe, of learning Application Express is to go to our hands-on labs page. And you can download the VM, which is actually what we use in the hands-on labs here. or you can actually sign up for a service on something like apex.oracle.com, and then you can actually go through these labs here and start going through. These top two here, they're each about 4 hours long to complete, but they expect you to have zero knowledge and actually take you through step by step on how to go from nothing to building a complex application. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, so I'm just going to go to, oh, that's a bit, let's go back down, there we go. I'm just going to go into apex.oracle.com and sign into one of my workspaces. And I'm just going to show you a quick tour around of the different components of Application Express. And then I'm going to do some demonstration on building applications. So first of all, I'm in the application builder. You can see I've just got one application in here at the moment. This is where I can import applications. I can go and do various other utilities. When I go into SQL Workshop, I can have a look in the object browser at all of my database objects. So here's all my tables. Let me just puff this up a little so we can see it a bit better. Or I can go and look at, I've got a couple of packages. I don't think I've got any views. Nope. But I can see any of these database objects that are in here. Let me go and pick off one of these, say customer table here. I can see all the columns. I can actually look at the data in there. I can edit the data. I can insert rows. I can look at constraints on this table, etc. I can also go and create new database objects, as well as from here, I can go and modify columns, add columns, drop columns, where everything that basically I need to do as a database developer, I can do through the SQL Workshop. And the main reason we provide this is it's not that there's not other tools like SQL Developer, etc., that do this very well. But if you're working on a hosted site, such as apex.oracle.com, then you're not given rights directly to the database. And so the only way you can maintain database objects is through here. The next major component in SQL Workshop is SQL commands. So in here I can run anything I like. So select asterisk from S customer, and I'll run that. And it gives me my results. I can do an explain, plan, describe, all that sort of fun stuff. Next one across is SQL scripts. And this allows me to build up a text file which inserts into tables, does some DDL, DML, whatever it needs to do, and then upload that script and I can run it and see results. Under utilities, there's a number of different options. I said under utilities, there's a number of different options. Thank you very much. There's the data workshop where I can upload and download data. So I can upload text, XML, spreadsheet data. I can download it to text, XML. I can go into the query builder. So if someone's not comfortable writing SQL statements, query builder allows them to click the particular database objects, do some links, select the columns they want. It'll create the SQL for them. I can also generate a DDL. I can set up user interface defaults and various other things through the utilities. Then the last one allows me to define RESTful services. Sorry. Oh, that'll be great on the recording. So if I'm emitting web services from the database, then I can define them here. The next major component is team development. So if you're building large projects, then you can define milestones, you can define features. To-dos are just baby features, basically, so our developers use these to basically mark down the various steps within a feature that they're working on. You can also define bugs and feedback within an application. And then lastly, we have packaged apps. And there's two types of packaged apps. There's the productivity ones, and these are point solutions that you can install in a couple of minutes. In fact, let me go ahead and I'm just going to click on one. So let me do, say, customer tracker. And I'm just going to install that. And it's going off and installing now. So these point solutions are designed to work standalone. There's things like customer tracker, there's a projects, there's a bug tracker, there's just a number of different point solutions that you'll see just how quick and easy you can install these. You can use them as is, and in their locked state, they're fully supported. Alternatively, you can unlock them, and once you've unlocked them, you won't be able to get any updates and what have you, but you then can customize it to meet your specific requirements, or alternatively, you can actually just use it for learning how do we build that particular type of page or something like that. This won't take too much longer, I hope. Great question. It actually creates all the tables and it actually populates them with sample data. So it's actually at the moment, I should have shown you beforehand, but I had a number of tables and about 10 down or so you'll see I had S customer, S order, S amp, etc. So once this is finished, I'll take you back in there and you'll see that it's created a whole collection of tables called EBA. So I'm just going to go into manage before I do that, and I'm just going to unlock it. And the reason I unlock it is so that I've got full rights in here. But let me just go back to the SQL workshop here for a second, and you'll see it's created these tables, EBA cust, email log, ref phase, etc. So if I go in here now, all these database objects, it just created as part of installing this packaged application. And if I actually go into, let's see, contacts maybe, and have a look, you'll see that there's, contains no data. Huh. Oh, there's a reason for that. If I actually go and run this, so I'm just going to run this packaged application and sign in, and the first time I log in, it's going to ask me about what sort of access control and do I want to load the sample data. So I'm going to leave that as yes. And then I've got all these options or features that I can turn on or off. So yes, I want competitors, I want contacts, feedback, yeah. I don't want partners. For some reason, I don't have any partners. It's a bit sad, really. So now I've just loaded up the sample data, and at any point I can go into administration and remove that sample data so I can use it for building, in this case, my proper customers, just by going into here into manage sample data, and I can remove it. But for now, I'm just going to leave it. So it comes with things like access control. Oh, come on. Go back in. I can switch on or off any of those options. So if I decide, I've actually got some partners, I can go and switch that back on. I can go and change the welcome text. I can change the style. So at the moment it's Vita, and I want it to be red. So now I've got a red application. And there's a lot of different things I can do. These applications, as I said, are designed to be point solutions. So here I've got some customers. I can go into each customer. I can see I've got an 18% discount total. Total contract value is 1.4 mil. Here's his activity, contacts. Yes, he's referenceable. Here's his competitors, etc. So I can just, use this application from my own company to start tracking customers. Or if there's something it doesn't have that you need, you can actually, extend it out and customize it yourself. So that's the productivity applications. There's also a number of sample applications, and these show point solutions. So, for example, there's one here, sample database application, which is just a general application. Then we've got ones for things like interactive grids, reports, dynamic actions, etc. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just how easily I can take one of the most common use cases. How many people here have spreadsheets sent to them where they need to update data and send it back to someone? There's only one honest person. Okay? All the rest of you are liars. I know it. So, we have this capability with Application Express where I've got a spreadsheet, and let me just show you this spreadsheet. Come on, get bigger, or not. Okay. Not, it seems. So this spreadsheet, I've just got some projects, some tasks, some dates, cost, budget, etc. So this spreadsheet's been sent around to everyone because we need to get an update on the costs and the budgets. What I'm going to do, Control A to copy it all, Control Control A to select it all, Control C to copy it. Go back over here to Application Express. Go to my application builder, and I'm going to create. And I'm going to create from a spreadsheet. And yep, I'm going to copy and paste. And I'm simply going to paste that data in, go next. And then I look at this, and I need to give this a name. So I'm going to call this one, I'll just call it projects. You can see that the first column here is varchar 230, second one's 255, next one's a date. If I go across, the cost and budget are numbers. And it's looked at about the first 20 or 30 records to work out the size of these things. That all looks good to me. Just go next. And I'm just going to create my application. So at this point, it's taking that spreadsheet, it's creating a table in the Oracle database, it's populating that table with all of the data from the spreadsheet, and it's also created this application. So now I can run this application. So now what was in that spreadsheet, I can now see here. And I can go and edit this data. And you'll see that on forms, dates come up with date pickers. These numeric fields, if I put in non-numeric values and try and save it, it'll give me an error. If I click on that error, it'll drop me back in there. So let me put that up to, say, 5,000. In fact, let's make it 50,000. That was an expensive one. As soon as I save that, you'll notice that this report's updated with the latest values because of the fact it's a single source of truth. So now, instead of having a spreadsheet where you've got 20 different copies of the spreadsheet, God knows how many different versions of the spreadsheet, now I've got a single source of truth, and all I do is send out this URL. That's it. And all I need to do is set up some user credentials, and people could come in here and maintain their data directly inside the application, which is going straight to the Oracle database. The Oracle database is being maintained by the IT team, so they're backing up the schema. So you've got better security, you've got better protection on your data, etc. And it's a lot easier to use than a spreadsheet. Let me just show you some other things we can do. So let me quickly go down here. At the moment, I've got this status, and I can type in anything into the status. All right, it came from a spreadsheet. So what I'd like to do is expand this application, or enhance this application just a little, so I can only put in one of the current statuses as a status. So all I'm going to do is, because of the fact I started this from the application builder, then I have this developer toolbar down the bottom. And this allows me to go from the runtime back into development. So I'm simply going to click on Quick Edit, and then I want this status field. So you can see that it's highlighted there, and I'm just going to click on it. And what happens is it's now bringing up the specific page I was on, which is page 2, and it's also on the specific item being P2 status. And at the moment, this is what we call Page Designer, and we have our rendering tree on the left. In the middle, we have a representation of what the page looks like and the layout. And then on the other side, we have the property editor. And I can see that I've got a text field here, and I'm just going to change that to a select list. And you'll see this came up in red. The reason being, it needs to know what sort of list of values type to use for this select list. So let me just go down. If I click on that, it drops me down there. Here it is. Well, oh, because I zoomed in, that's why. Okay. Let's just bring that up. Now I'm just going to write a little SQL query, and I've got a code editor here. So I'm going to select status as my display value, status as my return value, from my table projects, order by 1. So I can validate that this is valid SQL. Looks good. And then I'm going to save it. Now, as soon as I save it, those changes are being saved as metadata. I can just run this page immediately. Now, it's defined as a modal page, so I can't actually run it directly from there. Instead, I'm going to go not to there. Where am I? There. that one. I'll just cancel this, refresh my page, just to make sure I get the latest changes. And now you'll see that my status is actually a select list. It's like, ooh, yeah. Well, you can select any number of these that you would like. It's like, yeah, that's not quite what I had in mind. So I'm just going to go back to Page Designer, go back to my query. It's like, let's just throw a little distinct in here, shall we? See if that's any better. Again, very simple. Go over here, cancel this, and if I pop it again, doesn't matter which record I select, that's better. It's like, that's still not quite right because of the fact I've got this blank line at the top. So go back in. But you can see how quickly and easily I can just do iterative development until I get it to just the way I want it. So if I go down here, I don't want to display extra values. I do want to display a null value. And this is going to be called select status. And now I'm good. Go back over, drop this down, select another one, don't care. It's like, there, that's better. So now, within a couple of minutes, I just took something that was a spreadsheet and I've started adding some things into it. They can only select one of my existing statuses. They can't, create their own, otherwise they would. And I've got all this data sitting in an Oracle database. Now, the other key thing is, this is what we call an interactive report. And an interactive report allows end users to customize the way that this data looks. So as an end user, I don't like the end date. Why? I just don't like end dates. I can go into columns. I can remove the start date as well, and I'm going to remove the assigned to. Apply that. So now I've just got those columns. Okay, that's looking better for me. I've got this cost and budget. I want to know what the difference is between them. So I'm going to go into data. I'm going to go to compute. And I'm going to do budget versus cost. And let's see if I can type that properly. Format mask on that one. And then here's all my columns. Here's my budget, which is I minus H for a cost. And then I'll apply that. So what it's done is created this column for me. And I can see all these values, and some of them are negative. Well, I'd like to go and do a highlight so I can see the negative ones a lot easier. So I'm going to call these ones over budget. I'm going to give it a color, say yellow, select my budget versus cost, and simply put in where that's less than 0. And end users can be trained pretty easily to do this stuff. So now I'm seeing all those where the cost is higher than the budget, because they're the ones I want to keep an eye on. Now I can also do things like I can do breaks. So I'm going to do a break on project. So now I've got this Acme Web Express configuration, then bug tracker, client server conversion, etc. And looking at these, I want to know what the total is for each project. So again, I go back to my actions, go to data, I go to aggregate, I select sum, budget versus cost. So now I can see that this one overall, I'm ahead of the game by 600. That's pretty good. Oh, this one's negative 45,000. Not so good. But that's all very well and good, but most people like to see things visually. So let's create a chart. So I'm just going to create a chart of my project versus my budget versus cost, do a sum of that, and I'm going to order it by the labels. So now, you can see this one that I changed to negative 50,000 is really negative. And here's my other ones. And I can see that maintain support systems is negative 3,500, etc. But I want to change the basis of this chart. And instead of project, I want it assigned to see how individual contributors are doing. And poor old Myra is negative 43,000. But I can go through any of these other ones and see what their values are. But wait, that's not all. End users can also go in and do a group by. So they might want to do a group by, say, status, and then they want to do a average cost, and they can do an average budget, and then I'm going to do a sum of budget versus cost. And that last one I'm going to total up. So now I can have a look across at this. I can say, okay, Average cost of the pending ones, very low. Pending means they haven't started, makes sense. Average cost of the closed ones is 2,800 odd. Average budget is only 1,200. Whoa. Yeah, and I can see overall I've got about 24,000 left in my total budget across all of my projects. So that's pretty useful. If I go back here, one of the key reasons people take data out of an application and take it to Excel is so that they can do a pivot. Well, with Application Express, you can do a pivot directly on an interactive report. So I'm going to do the status, project, I'm just going to do a sum, budget versus cost, I'll do the total on that one as well. Now I could be putting format masks and labels and everything on, but I'm lazy. And so here you can see across each of my statuses, for each of my projects, where the money is. So, you know, if I have a look at convert spreadsheets, closed it's 2,000, open it's 4,000, and pending I've got 500. So I can see, you know, what the pivot is for each status across each project, which is very useful. So now I've done a number of different manipulations on this data, and what I'd like to do is save it. So I'm just going to go in, and I'm going to go down here to report. I'm going to save report. Now, because I'm a developer, I get this extra box at the top, and I can save default report settings. So I can save this as a primary report, and so that's how everyone would see, and they'd see all these other, you know, the group by and the chart and everything else when they came in. Or I can use this alternative, and I'm going to use that one, and I'm going to call this one budget review. I'm just going to apply it. So now, if I go back to my primary report, you'll see it still looks the same. However, if I go into actions and then reset, then this is how everyone will see it when they come in, but they can at any time go and pick up this budget review, see the way I laid out the report, and in fact we can minimize those, can see the chart that we defined, can see the group by that we defined, and the pivot table, so they can access all that information. Now, you may think, oh, okay, we did a generation from a spreadsheet, there's a lot of stuff in behind. But let's go and have a look at that page. If we have a look at that page, page 1, here's my projects region, and if you have a look, this is just a simple SQL statement. That's all the basis of this report. And once you define that SQL statement, then all the interactivity, all the options that you saw me playing with there are now available to your end users. And so this can work with any SQL statement you like. However, if you choose to, you can optionally turn on or off different capabilities. So the rows per page selector is currently no, we'll leave that one alone. Here's all my different actions. So I didn't do a filter, but I'm allowed to do filters, I can do sorts, control breaks, all sorts of different things. I want to be able to save a public report, and I want to be able to do subscriptions. So I'm just going to change those to yes, save it, and run it. So now I'm just going to, go back to my primary report, and this time I'm going to go to my columns, and my dates are very important to me, so I'm going to move them up the top, apply that, and now I can actually just do a sort here, right? Or I can go in here and do a broader sort. Let's go in here. So at the moment I've got start date ascending, and in fact I want that descending, and then end date ascending's fine. I can say, null's always last. Apply that. And so now I've ordered my data in a different way. Again, as an end user, I can come in here and I'm going to save a report. And this time I'm just going to put in here that this is a date review. And I'm doing this as an end user. Now, because the developer allows me to save this as a public report, I can simply check this checkbox, and that means any other user of this application can see the report that I've just defined. I can save it as a private or as a public report, but I decided public. So anybody else can come in and see this date review. Now, I didn't do a lot to it. probably do something more advanced before I did that. But there's that capability. The other thing we can do is we can download this. So we can download it in CSV, HTML, email. If you've got a report server defined, then you can also download it in XLS, PDF, and RTF. So I'm just going to download it in HTML, just so we can see it. And one of the things you'll notice is it's the same order and same columns that we had displayed. If I do the same thing on my budgets, so if I cancel this down and I go to my budget review, then I can actually download this pivot report. Let me just go back to the actual report itself. If I download this one, it'll have ID, task, status, etc. So, I've got that sort of choice. I can also do a subscription. So I might want to be sent this on a daily basis. Oops, that's not my email address. Put in my email address. It's called Budget Review. I want it daily, weekly, monthly, and starting from this point, and then I can select an end date. Now, I'm actually not going to hit apply, otherwise it will start sending me emails, and I don't really want this one sent to me. So I'm going to click on cancel. But you can see that what started off life again as a very simple spreadsheet, now all of a sudden, end users can slice and dice this data to get all sorts of fun information out of it. But wait, that's still not all. If I go back into the application builder, I've got all those start and end dates. Well, I want a calendar. Let's go and create a calendar. So I'm just going to click on Create Page, go to Calendar, and I'm going to call this Calendar. Very creative, I know. Sure, I'll use breadcrumbs. Don't want a parent entry, go next. Yes, I want a new navigation menu entry called Calendar, because again, I'm very creative. And, oops, would help if I selected a table. I called it Projects. There's my Projects table. Here's all my columns, just click Next. So I want to display no, I actually want the task to display, start date, end date, don't want time, done. How long did that take? About a minute? Not long. So let's run it. So now I have a calendar. Here's all my entries coming out on a calendar. It's like, okay, that's cool, but not a lot's, I can get the text up there, but I want to edit these from here. Okay, well, let's go and edit. Let's go and tweak it. I'll edit page 3. Here's my calendar. Here's my attributes. And I'm going to define an edit link. I want to go to another page in my application. I want to go to my projects page here where I can maintain my projects. And I want to set the ID based on the ID for my calendar. And I'm just going to clear the cache on that page, which is page 2. Click OK. Save it. Run it. So now, if I click on one of these, it goes straight to that form. And so I'm started out again from very simple beginning of a spreadsheet. Now I've got all sorts of additional things. And I can start building charts. I can start building all sorts of other components on top of that data because it's now in the Oracle database. And building pages is just as easy as I showed you. So if you wanted to do a chart, just click on Create Page, select Chart. What sort of chart do you want? Oh, I'm trying to think here on the fly, a bar chart maybe. Call this a bar chart. Chart. Again, sure, I'll do breadcrumbs. Go next. Give it a navigation menu entry. And so I can just keep building these things up. When this comes up, I'd actually have to go and define the series, so I'd probably write some SQL statement against my project. So select, I'd dream one up, but I'm not going to do it now. I'll just leave it as broken. The other thing is, I might already I might already have tables in the Oracle database. So what does it take to build on top of those? Well, let's do it. Now, I'm running this on apex.oracle.com, so I have an additional option here called Blueprint. I'm actually going to go to the old school one, which is our desktop one here. Click on, this one's going to be called Kscope Employees. Okay, that's all good. Go next. I'm going to add a page. And I hope I've got the emp and dep tables. Just going to do a report and form. Well, there's my dep table, that's good. That's going to be normal. Add that in. So you can see I can just start selecting different types of pages I want very quickly, very easily. I'm going to add in employees as well. Okay, report and form. Somewhere there's my employees table. Yep, that's all good. I'll leave that one as, in fact, put that one as normal as well. Add this page in, and now I'm ready to create my application. I can keep adding pages if I wanted to, but that's enough. Oops. Meant to create. That's all good. I'll just go through the rest of the wizard. It's not many steps here. Come on. Right. One last one. And now I can actually create my application. So whether you've got existing tables, you're creating from spreadsheets, everything's very quick and easy. And you can see I'm not doing very much coding at all. Okay? It's really about cutting down the barriers so you can start meeting those business requirements and getting applications out in front of them exceedingly quickly. So this one here, I just did it on emp and dep. Here's my emp table. If I click on one of these, I said if I click on one of these, come on, there we go. Now at this stage, I've got this job. And I only want commission to be available if the job is salesman. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to quickly edit this job. What time do I finish? 45? I've got 5 minutes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, much like I did before, change this to a select list, and I'll scroll down here, SQL query, select distinct this time, job, and job. Now, generally I would have a table that I look up for this, but we don't with the emp and dep tables, so I'm not going to use that. From emp, order by one. Okay, now while I'm here, I'm going to make this one a pop-up list of values. Oops. So I'm going to make this one a pop-up list of values. And when I scroll down, where did it go? It's in here somewhere. There we go. Again, I'm going to use a SQL query. Now, I could do a shared component, and that means I could use this on multiple pages. But I'm only going to use this once. So I'm going to select ename as my display and empno as my return value from emp order by one. Order by one. In fact, if I do leave it as that and I try and do a validation, it'll tell me it's missing the by keyword in this case, so it's a good way to check my SQL. While I'm at it, I also want to do a select list on departments. So let's just select that one. Again, click on here, takes me into here sort of, okay, query, and this one I'm actually going to use, I'm going to select the dname and the depno from dep, order by one. So it's about as much typing as I've done all day. Okay, so now let's just see where we're at with this. Save it, run it. That's pretty good. That's pretty much where I'm after. I could clean these up a little more if I wanted to, but for now it's okay. So I've got this nice pop-up list of values if I wanted to use that. Departments, it's got this LOV2. So now what I want to do is I want to edit this job one more time. And what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to right-click here on job, and I'm going to create what's called a dynamic action. Dynamic actions allow me to do client-side interactivity. It'll actually implement JavaScript and Ajax if necessary. Whoop. But I don't have to write any of that. Again, I'm doing it declaratively. So I just label this. Commission for salesmen only. All right? And then when the job is item equals value, all right? That's the one I want. When the job is equal to salesman, then I want to do something. And what do I want to do? So my true action, I don't want to show something, I want to enable something. And I want to enable an item, okay? And the item I want to enable is my commission. Then if it's not equal to salesman, I want to disable it. So I'm just going to create my opposite action. So now I've got that in there as well. Save it, run it. Sure, leave. Thank you. So at the moment, you'll see I can't get into this commission field. It's just disabled. If I change it to manager, still can't do it. If I change it to salesman, guess what? Now I can put something in. Change it back to something else, then I can't get into it. So I've just made it so that they can only enter commission for salesmen. Did I write any JavaScript to do that? No. But wait, there's more. I have a department. What location is my department? Well, let's go and find out. So I'm going to edit my department. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add dynamic action for this one. Oh, sorry, before I do that, I'm just going to go back into my layout, and I need another item. So I'm just going to bring up my property editor, my gallery here, and I'm going to go into items, and I want to display only item, and I want it right next to the department. So I'm going to drag it over to here. Very easy to do on a big screen, not so easy to do on this tiny one. And I'm going to call this location. And I know I'm getting very low on time. This won't take long, I promise you. Go down here, and all I've got to do is set my, here from a database column to null. Okay, then I'm going to go to department number, and I'm going to create another dynamic action. This one's called get location. And whenever the department changes, I want this one to fire, okay? Instead of show, I'm going to do what's called a set value. And this will actually instigate, it'll actually generate a Ajax call to go and do what I want it to do. So I've got a SQL statement. I'm going to select the location, I think it's LAC, from dept, where depno equals, and then I need a colon, and I'm on page, just need to check, page 5, depno. So I need to tie that in. So then all I need to do is items to submit will be P5 depno. And that's it. Oh, I need to tell it where it's going to set it. Sorry. So I'm going to set an item, and I'm going to set it to this new item I just created called P5 location. Save it, run it. Yeah, leave the page. So now I can tell you that accounting is in New York, research is in Dallas, etc. If I actually go into the departments table and I edit one of these, we're actually not there, we're in San Antonio. Save it. And I go back to AMP, and which one was that one? Anybody? I think it was research. There you go, it's pulling it back from the database. So again, I can introduce, complex logic, but I wasn't writing JavaScript, I wasn't writing Ajax to be able to go and do that. Instead, the engine's doing all of this for you, so it makes it a very effective way to build out applications where your main concern is what is the business rather than how am I doing this. So I know I'm out of time, in fact I'm slightly over, but I'll be around all week. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to stop me and ask any questions you have. But thank you very much for your time, and don't forget to fill out your evaluations.